Welcome to this talk on top tips to remain pain-free as a student or when you're studying. I just want to spend a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds at least just introducing myself. I'm Daniel Ruby. I'm a chiropractor in Oxfordshire. I'm actually based in Wantage, so not too far from Oxford. And I'm also a lecturer of neuroscience at the Chiropractic Colleges in Oxfordshire and Manchester. And I'm also their clinical lead for their final year students going through their five-year degree. Just a little bit of background about me before that. I used to be a forensic scientist. So I did my neuroscience degree, became a forensic scientist, but I always had this passion for chiropractic right from a young age. And it was something that absolutely it was just such a passion. It's something that I just wanted to help people without the use of medication, trying to encourage more movement, get people functionally well, make sure that their sports are optimized. So I work with quite a lot of sport people now. And also all the way through, right through to the elderly, making sure that they can get back to the activities that they love to enjoy, such as picking up grandchildren, going out for walks every day, and just doing the things that we should be able to do all the way through our lives. So it's interesting actually, because being invited to talk to you guys, because it's really important from such a young age to appreciate the importance of movement. And I think you more than anyone have probably realized over the past 12 months with the lockdown how much sitting at a desk can influence our health overall. It can have a negative impact, and you have to actually really push yourselves to get out there, to get moving, to step away from the work environment during the day and take breaks regularly. And today I just want to talk for the first 20 minutes or so just around some top tips that can help, give a little bit of explanation as to why it's important as well, and then take some questions towards the end, and I will do my best to answer them for you. So the first thing to just say is really about why is it important, and what is it that we are trying to look after above all. And this is a spine. So very often, well, always, our spines sit at the back of us, so they would be here. And generally, what's behind us, we don't pay too much attention to. So the things that we can see, we're probably very good with. So, our looking after our hair, and, well, maybe not at the moment, but looking after our hair and our teeth, and, the way we look physically, people very often put their efforts into those. But the things that are hidden, right at the back, like our spines, we maybe don't pay that much attention to. But I do just want to point out the importance of our spines, and something which you probably take for granted is, if you reach out with your hand now and you squeeze your hand like this, there's something that's, other than me telling you to do that, there's something that's controlling that movement. And what's controlling that is your brain, and your brain sits up here, right at the top of your skull. And all of these signals that travel from your brain that cause you to do this travel down your spine. If there's anything going on with the spine, then it can lead to some of that interference or some of that miscommunication from what's coming into the brain and also what's coming out. An indication of how important the spinal cord is, and these nerves, these yellow bits here, an indication of how important they are, is the fact that it's encased in bone. So your whole of your nervous system, from your brain, with your surrounded by your skull, and your spinal cord surrounded by your vertebra, is encased in bone as a protective mechanism, because your body knows how important it is to protect it. So it is really important that we look after our spines, not just because it's involved in this movement here, but because it's also involved in the nerves that flow out to our organs as well. So all of our body is controlled by our nervous system, our spines, and ultimately our brain. And sometimes what we get with our spines are these warning signs. So pain would be a warning sign. Pain is there as a protective mechanism for your body to say, you need to move, you need to do something to change your position or withdraw from the threatening signal, essentially. So what you really need to think about is pain is like the fire alarm, and essentially your brain is the smoke detector, the smoke alarm in your house. So if the smoke alarm goes off in your house, the first thing that you think about is not, I'm going to take the batteries out. The first thing that you think about is, where's the smoke, where's the fire? And just because we're feeling pain does not necessarily mean that it's the problem is where the pain is felt. Sometimes we can have pain in our lower back, which is the smoke alarm, but actually the pain can be, the signals for that pain can be coming from somewhere else, such as in our neck. So I just want to explain a little bit more about our spines and when we are sitting and working, and then things we can actually do to counteract the problems. Ultimately, trying to identify the cause of some of the discomfort and the pain that we experience, mainly through sitting. So this is our spine. And it is designed with 3 curves. So I'll do it lengthways just so you can see it. You've got your curve in your lower back here, and you've got an outer curve through your thoracic spine here, and then you've got your inner curve again called a lordosis through your neck at the top, and then your brain sits on here. Now these 3 curves are really important because what they provide is shock absorption for the spine. So contrary to popular belief, our discs, the discs in between our vertebra, they are not the shock absorbers. What is the shock absorber for your skeleton and for your spine is these 3 curves here. So as you get compression down the spine, you get that shock absorption through the curves. Now, what happens when we are working, very often sat at a desk, is the lumbar spine might be okay initially, but what happens is we start to lean forwards and we're looking down at our computer. And what happens is you end up with a straighter cervical spine or straighter neck. You increase loading through your head, through the joints in your neck, right at the base here. And ultimately, you're losing some of this shock absorption through your spine. Now, it's probably not going to cause you any problems in the short term, and when you're doing it initially, you won't notice any discomforts. But over time, those things do have a detrimental effect. Now, I'm not sure if you've heard, there's a saying that's been going around for the last few years that sitting is the new smoking. And this is research-based, that sitting is the new smoking because the research shows that sitting for prolonged periods actually reduces the amount of time that you have in your life. So it takes years off your life to the same extent as smoking does. So it is really important that we try to change the way we sit, or ultimately move more so that we're sitting less. And part of that problem is because of this straightness here through the upper back and into the neck. Something that happens very often as a result of this straightening through the neck and the loss of the curvature through the spine here is that you end up with compensatory changes through your lumbar spine, so through your lower back. What actually happens is this position here increases the amount of tension through your nervous system. And in a compensatory mechanism to actually remove that tension, your lumbar spine starts to compress. Basically, your lumbar spine becomes shortened, the muscles around it become shortened, the vertebrae become closer together, because what it's doing is it's trying to release tension from the nervous system so that it compensates for the increased tension through your lower back. So very often people that we see through our clinics, especially those that are students and working for long periods of time, actually come in with lower back pain and constantly focusing on ways to deal with that. So, hot water bottles, for instance, stretching, all good things to do, but forgetting that actually it might just be a compensatory mechanism for something that is going on higher up into here. Something some simple changes that you can make at your desk is, if I can move this just around a little bit so you can see my desk here. So what often happens is when you're sat here, you'll be working and you would take your head forwards into a position called an anterior head carriage, which increases that loading through your upper back here. Research also shows that changing that position and moving your head forwards decreases the blood supply, which runs through your vertebra, decreases the blood supply by up to 60%. And it's that change that is thought to be the mechanism that reduces the time on your life as well. So really important that instead of having your head in this position, you bring your chin back and you bring your neck back. Now, occupational health guidance would often say that you want your monitor to be at eye level, so that you want your eyes to be level with the top of the monitor. That works very well at the beginning of the day. You sit down, you're thinking, right, okay, my eyes are in line with the monitor, everything's good. And then you start to work, well, if you're like me, you start to work and you're on your keyboard and you're focusing on what you're typing, but actually, instead of lifting your head up to look at the monitor, what you do is you just constantly changing your eye line. And unfortunately, what happens then is you're constantly in this position of looking down, head forwards, chin forwards, increasing the load on our neck, reducing the blood supply, and obviously, or ultimately, leading to issues such as headaches and neck pain. So my recommendation is to get your monitor and increase the height of it so that the bottom of the monitor is in line with your eye line, or at least the bottom third of your monitor is in line with your eye line. So what you're having to do between typing and using your monitor is actually change your head position. So you're going to be looking up at the monitor and looking down at the keyboard, and up at the monitor and down at the keyboard. And what I'm trying to get you to do is encourage more movement during the day. Now, I appreciate that many of you will be using your laptops, perfectly fine, not a problem with that. Try not to do work on the sofa watching Netflix in that slouch position using your laptop. What you really want to be doing is having your laptop on a riser, so that, again, your laptop is your monitor and it's pitched nice and highly with the bottom of the laptop monitor screen being at your eye level. And then you use something like a wireless keyboard and mouse, just so that you're not using everything on the laptop when you're sat at your desk. Laptops aren't really designed to be used at desks, so changing it so that you can use it as a monitor is the perfect way around it. And again, you're going to get that difference then in terms of moving your head up and down and encourage movement through your C-spine. But what I just want to do is focus on a couple of exercises that you can also do whilst you're sat at your desk, and also some little mechanisms that are quite helpful. So the very first thing that is useful to do with your neck are exercises called yes, no, maybes. So very often we are good at doing activities with our neck that involve the yes and the no. So these are the yes and the no's. So yes would be up and down, and no would be left and right. And then the maybes are the ones that we very often don't do enough of. This is your spine, two vertebrae here, and it's these joints here that we're actually trying to move. So the maybes, they might be a little bit blurred, but the maybes are opening your facet joints or the hinges of your spine by doing the side bending. So just gentle motions left and right, ears to shoulders, and getting those vertebrae nice and moving. The other thing you can do to stretch out some of the muscles in the neck is take a hand and sit on it. So place your hand underneath your bum cheek, and what that will do is it will depress the shoulder on that side, and then you can also do what we were just doing, the maybe position of taking the ear to the shoulder, but you're stretching out through that trapezius muscle, it's called. And if you want to get different fibers of it, then you can just turn your head to the side at the same time so that you're just getting stretches up into the neck and relieving some of that pressure, which pulls down onto the occiput, the base of the skull, and very often leads to cervicogenic tension-related headaches in people. Some simple things that you can do for your mid-back would be getting your fists together and pushing out, and then taking your arms across your chest on either side, and then across your waist on either side, just to get some of that mid-back position moving. If you're looking to do some exercises for your lower back, then I'm not sure if you've heard it before, but the cat-cow based exercises is really good. Not something you can do that easily at your desk, but it involves you being on all fours and just rounding through your back and sinking through your back. So if I just move the camera around to this clinic bench here, I can just demonstrate it to you. So you're on all fours and you're going to round your back and then sink through. So you're putting your bum into the air and then back round, rounding and back through. Now you don't actually have to be on all fours to do a similar based exercise when you're at your chair. What you can do is think of your pelvis like a bucket of water and empty it forwards and empty it backwards as you're sat in your chair. So you're sticking your belly out forwards and you're tucking your bum under as you move through your pelvis. So tipping forwards with your pelvis, tipping back with your pelvis, and you're going to get a similar movement to that cat-cow based exercise that many people do through yoga classes. But you're sat down and you're able to just mobilize some of those segments through your spine. Something that a lot of people find really useful are pressure cushions or wobble cushions. So this is a wobble cushion, and just as I was saying there, where you can be on all fours and you can get that motion through your spine, you can actually sit on something like this and constantly through the day get some change of position through your pelvis and through your lower back. So I'm just going to move that down again. So if I was sat at my desk, I'd put this here, I'd be sat on it, and then I'm able to shuffle around a little bit and be working at the same time. And you'll see over in the corner there that there's also a fit ball, it's just over there, which some people also get a lot of benefit for. The problem with fit balls is that they're not height adjustable. So very often you end up working on something up here because the Swiss ball or the fit ball is a little bit too low. So my preference is these wobble cushions. They're nice and easy to get off Amazon as well. You can get everything off Amazon these days. And it just gets your lumbar spine nice and free. My last top tip for you guys, and I appreciate, we're all in this together, and we have been for the last 12 months, and we will continue to be as we work through coming out of lockdown going forwards. But depression and anxiety is a huge thing that we need to try and reduce as much as possible. And just giving you some coping mechanisms to do that. What you'll tend to find is, I don't know if you do already know, but through sleep patterns, what happens with our brain when we're awake and what happens with our brain when we're asleep are very different things. But as we transition between being asleep and waking up in the morning, our brain goes through these wave cycles, and it makes us very susceptible to thoughts. So as it changes, the thoughts that we have actually have the ability to change our physiology. So you've probably heard this before, people saying, don't read negative social media posts in the morning, don't read the news, take time out in the morning. It's all for this reason, because we are most susceptible to change our thoughts into our reality of our physiology in the morning by taking on that negativity. If you think of the world as a globe, and you've got your poles and polar opposites, then you can think of our human emotions as being very, very similar. They're all of our human emotions are dotted around this spindle of this globe. And we've got polar opposites, one being depression and anxiety, and the opposite to that would be gratitude. So one of the best things that you can do every morning to work on your anxiety levels is do the polar opposite of your depression and anxiety, and be thankful for what you have going on in the day. Be thankful for where you are, be thankful for what you've achieved, and spend the first few moments of your day just taking time out, even like the first half hour. Just the first thought that you say is, today is going to be a great day. Start on a positive, and then take some moments just to close your eyes and think about all the things that you're thankful for. Show gratitude and work through that direct polar opposite to which would be the opposite of gratitude, your anxiety and depression. Start your day on a positive. Do that repeatedly for a week, and I promise you, 1 week later, those thoughts will start to become second nature every morning that you wake up. So I just want to also show my gratitude to you guys for being present today and taking part in this talk, and listening to me as well. And I now just want to kind of open it up to any questions as to anything that I can help with regards to reducing pain, or any issues that you might have when you're studying from a musculoskeletal perspective. So yeah, let me know. No questions, that's a good sign.
Thank you so much. That was great, Dan. I had one, I guess, in terms of wrists. So a lot of us that maybe are staff have got the ergonomic keyboards and mouse. But is there anything else you can sort of recommend? Because for if we're spending all day with the mouse, or I mean, I guess you use the same sort of thing for the phone as well. So is there any sort of wrist exercises you recommend in particular?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Definitely. So, like you said, you've got these supports, which are great. I think the key message for all of these exercises, or any part of the body, is sit less and move more. So the best thing that you can do is step away from your desk and just use your wrists in a different fashion. But if you are sat at your desk, going through motions of like a prayer position like this, and then the opposite prayer position like that, holding your wrists together and bending a bit like the maybes with your neck. You can even do them together if you want to, bending through and then bending forwards and backwards as well. And then also not forgetting that you can work through your fingers. Your fingers, they only have the option to go forwards and backwards, but your thumb also has this rotation option as well. So moving the thumb through its different planes of movement, and then the fingers as well, and stretching through. It's a bit of a myth, so don't worry if your fingers click. It's a bit of a myth that clicking your fingers causes arthritis. That's not necessarily true. All it is gas escaping from the joints when that happens. But like anything, you don't want to take things too far past their end range of motion. So just nice and comfortable stretches is perfectly fine that you want to do. And then the same with each one. You can hold the wrist, so you're supporting the muscles at the wrist as you take the hand forwards and backwards. So yeah, that would be my suggestion for the wrists. Any other questions that I can answer or concerns? I think there's. Is there any particular wobble cushion you recommend? Not really, no, because they're basically just air-filled. I would avoid the wooden ones. So you can get wobble boards, and they are usually for ankle stability exercises. So you would stand on them. This one, it says Navaris on it. Bit of a free plug for whoever produced them. If I'm honest, I chose this based on its color, not based on its function, because most of the ones out there are pretty similar. You can get ones that are flat based and just a round cushion on top. But this has, I don't know if you can see that, this has knobbly bits or bobbly bits on the one side, which I think is supposed to work through an acupressure perspective in terms of stimulating blood flow, but the other side is pretty much smooth, so you can take your pick. But I wouldn't recommend any particular brand necessarily. They will all be fairly similar. Thanks, Dan. It's been so interesting. I was just wondering how often you suggest getting up to move. 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes, get up and move around. This might surprise you coming from a chiropractor, but there is no good and bad posture in my view. Now, others would disagree, but in my view, what the issue is prolonged posture. So I know I was saying about having your head forwards is considered a bad posture, but it's the duration that you're doing it for that is what makes it bad. So, it's fine to do like a funky chicken kind of action with your head, but you don't want to keep it in that forward position for too long, because prolonged posture is what causes the damage to your nervous system and your spine ultimately. And you may have seen through certain people, elderly people, that because of taking their head forwards, they end up with something called a dowager's hump, which is a changing of the structure of the spine around the top here, and it just starts to wedge the vertebra and push them forwards and forwards. And that's the kind of thing you want to avoid doing. And the best thing to do is just take your chin back and raise your monitor if you are working at a desk. So yeah, and I think from what I can see, I've answered the other questions. So does anyone else have anything, or are we calling that a day?
I think that's everything. Thank you very much. That was really interesting. I'll be reporting that back to the rest of the staff, I think, tomorrow to let them know. But thank you again for your time.
You're very welcome, and thank you for asking me as well. It's a pleasure to meet you all.